The night was cold on the alien world of Nareen. Two pale moons floated above the dark sky. The wind whispered through the tall silver trees near the river. It was quiet, too quiet, but the river was not silent that night. Near the edge of the black flowing water, a family stood. Their faces were hidden under dark cloaks. They looked down at the bundle in their arms, a woman. Not moving, not speaking. She was paralyzed from the neck down. Her eyes the only part of her that could show emotion, and her eyes, wide and shining with tears, were full of fear. Her name was Vera. She was once a great healer among her people, known for saving lives during the Red Plague. But one accident in the lab changed everything. The explosion left her body broken, frozen, useless, and in her world, being useless was the same as being unworthy. Her father spoke in a low voice. "We must do this. For the name of the family." Her mother whispered. "She cannot live like this. It is not life. It is shame." Her brother looked away, guilt fighting with fear. But none of them dared disobey the law of their secret order. The law said, if a body cannot serve the Empire, it must return to the stars. Vera wanted to scream, to beg, to cry out loud. But her mouth stayed still, her voice locked inside her silent throat. Her eyes begged them, pleaded with them, but they did not look. They would not look. With a final nod, her father stepped forward. He held her light body in his arms like carrying a child. Then he walked to the edge of the river. The water below was cold, deep and endless, without a sound. He let her go. Her body fell, hit the surface, and sank fast. The silver cloth around her wrapped tightly as the river pulled her down. Her eyes stayed open, watching the moonlight disappear. Bubbles rose from her lips as she sank into the darkness. Her heart screamed inside her chest. But no one could hear it, but someone was watching. From the shadows among the trees, a figure stood still. A tall man with rough clothes and a backpack. His name was Eli. He was human, sent to this alien world as a worker in the mining colony. Tonight, he had taken a break from the noisy camp to walk by the forest. He had hoped for peace, but what he saw filled him with horror. He didn't know who the woman was or why they threw her into the river. But he knew this. No one deserved to die like that. Not alone, not helpless, not like this, without thinking. He dropped his bag and ran toward the river. The cloaked family heard the sound of his boots and turned in shock. But he didn't stop. Eli jumped into the river, the cold hitting his skin like knives. He opened his eyes under the water. Searching, dark shapes moved below, but he focused on one, the shape of a body drifting deeper. His lungs burned as he reached out, grabbed her arm, and pulled. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. He kicked hard, swimming back to the surface. The air hit his face like fire as he rose, holding her head above water behind him. The cloaked figures were gone. They had disappeared into the forest like ghosts. Eli pulled her to the shore and laid her gently on the grass. Her eyes were open, blinking slowly. She was alive, barely. Her chest moved, soft and weak. "Hey," Eli said, breathless. "You're okay now. I've got you." She couldn't speak, but he saw something in her eyes. A question, a flicker of hope, or maybe confusion. He looked at her strange clothing, her alien skin that shimmered under the moon. She was not human, but she was not a thing to throw away either. He wrapped her in his coat, picked her up carefully. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but I'm not leaving you here." The forest around them was silent again, but the river still moved as if whispering secrets of what had just happened. As Eli walked away with the paralyzed woman in his arms, he didn't see the glowing red light far behind him. A drone had watched everything and sent the footage to someone powerful. The river was not silent that night. It had witnessed a crime, and now it had also witnessed the start of something greater, something that could shake the Empire, and it all began with a single human who chose to save a stranger. The forest was quiet as Eli carried the paralyzed alien woman deeper into the trees. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he couldn't take her back to the mining colony. Too many eyes, too many rules. If they saw her, they would ask questions, and Eli didn't trust the answers. The woman's skin was pale blue, glowing gently under the twin moons. Her body didn't move, but her eyes stayed open, watching him closely. Eli could feel her fear even though she made no sound. Still, there was something else behind her eyes, something stronger than fear. She was not giving up, not yet. Eli reached an old outpost hidden deep in the woods. It was once used by early explorers, but now forgotten. Inside, dust covered the walls, and vines grew through cracks in the floor, but it was safe, quiet, and far from the world that wanted her dead. He placed her gently on an old cot and lit a small lamp. "All right," he said softly. "Let's figure this out." Eli was no doctor, but he had training. He checked her pulse, her breathing, her bones. Nothing was broken, but her body was frozen, like her mind was awake, but the body refused to listen. He found a small bracelet on her wrist. It was alien tech, filled with strange buttons and symbols. Eli pressed one and the bracelet lit up, showing a glowing image, a picture of her smiling, standing tall. Wearing a white healer's robe, she looked like a leader, someone important, someone brave. Then a voice played from the bracelet. It was her voice, clear and soft. "Today, I try the cure," it said. "If it fails, let history know I tried." The recording ended. Leaving silence behind, Eli looked at her, shocked. "You were a doctor," he said. "You tried to save lives." She blinked once. Slowly, he sat beside her, wiping mud from her face. "You're not just some poor girl tossed away," he whispered. "You're someone powerful." That night, he made a small fire and warmed some water. He cleaned her wounds, fed her drops of soup, and covered her with blankets. Still, she didn't speak, didn't move. But as he turned to leave her and sleep nearby, something changed. He heard a soft tap, a knock. He turned quickly. Her hand hadn't moved. But her eye blinked twice, slowly and clearly. Once, paused, then twice again. Eli froze. "Are you trying to say something?" he asked, stepping closer. "Blink once for yes, twice for no." She blinked once. His heart jumped. Finally, a way to talk. "Is your name Vera?" he asked, guessing from the bracelet. One blink, yes, he smiled, surprised by his own excitement. "Vera, I'm Eli," he said gently. "I don't know why they threw you into that river, but I'm not like them." She blinked again. Slowly, it wasn't a yes or a no, but it felt like trust. The next morning, Eli left early to find supplies. The outpost was low on food and power. He didn't want to leave her alone, but he had no choice as he walked through the woods. He thought about her family. Why would they do that to her? What kind of world would throw away a woman who once saved lives? Eli remembered the old stories back on Earth, about witches, rebels, and fallen heroes. Maybe this alien world had its own cruel laws. Maybe her family feared her for something she knew. Something she discovered. He gathered fruit, herbs, and water, then returned to the outpost before sunset, but as he got closer, he stopped. A strange sound filled the air, a faint buzzing. He dropped low and moved silently, near the roof of the outpost. A small glowing eye hovered. It was a drone. Eli cursed under his breath. The drone floated, scanned the area, then zipped away toward the mountains. Someone was watching. Someone knew she was alive. He rushed inside. Vera was still there, safe, but her eyes were wide. She had seen it too. "They're coming for you," Eli said, his voice low. "Or maybe for both of us now." He sat down beside her, his mind racing. "I don't know what they're hiding." "Vera," he whispered, "but I think you know something they don't want the world to hear." She blinked once, then paused, then suddenly blinked twice. Then once again Eli frowned, trying to read the pattern. She was trying to tell him something. He grabbed a notebook and drew lines for blinks. Trying to decode, after some minutes a message formed from the blinks. "The plague is not gone." His blood ran cold. "You're saying the disease is still alive?" "One blink, yes, and you?" "You tried to warn them?" "Yes." He stood up, heart pounding. Now he understood. She wasn't just a paralyzed woman. She was a threat to a dangerous secret, and they had tried to drown that secret in the river. But she lived, and now the truth had someone to protect it. Eli. He looked down at her, eyes burning with new purpose. "I won't let them silence you again," he said. "You're not alone anymore," but outside, far in the forest, something else moved. Not a drone, not a soldier. Something worse, and it was coming closer. Before the accident, Vera's hands had saved hundreds of lives. She was known as the Silver Flame in her city, because her medical touch felt warm, even during the coldest times. She had studied healing arts not just from her own alien kind, but also from Earth and 3 other allied planets. People trusted her, respected her, even feared her intelligence. But all of that changed the day she stepped into Lab Unit 17. It was supposed to be a test, a small thing, just another formula to fight the final wave of the Red Plague. But someone tampered with the formula and it exploded. The lab caught fire, and 3 young trainees almost died. Vera shielded them with her body. They lived, but she did not walk again. Her spine was crushed, her voice lost. her arms and legs frozen, instead of honoring her sacrifice. The council whispered about failure. They said she had lost her balance and lost her worth. Her family, tied to politics, couldn't carry the weight of public shame, and so they took her far from the capital, kept her hidden for months until finally, they took her to the river now in the dusty outpost. She lay wrapped in blankets, blinking slowly at Eli. The human had brought back more food and supplies, but he also brought a notebook. Inside were symbols, dots, lines, and words, a code they had created together from her blinks. He would ask questions and she would blink to respond. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no, 3 for warning. They had their own language now. Eli sat beside her, flipping pages. Tell me more, he said. About what really happened, he tapped on the word plague. And she blinked once, he tapped on cure. And again, 1 blink, he tapped on explosion accident. 2 blinks, no, his eyes narrowed. So it wasn't an accident, he said. Someone did this on purpose. Her eyes glowed with a soft fire. 3 slow blinks, warning. He leaned back, shocked. You discovered something, he whispered, and they tried to stop you. Suddenly, her bracelet lit up again, playing a hidden message. This one wasn't public like the last one. It was shaky, full of panic, her voice gasping. If you're seeing this, then I failed. But the plague has changed. It adapts, feeds on certain blood types. I don't know how long I have. The message stopped, and the bracelet went dark. Eli stared at her in silence. You were close to a cure, he said. But they didn't want the cure, did they? 1 blink, they wanted the disease, he said slowly. To use it as a weapon. She blinked once again. He stood up, full of fire now. Those people didn't throw you into the river because you were weak, he said. They did it because you were brave, because you knew the truth. Vera's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in months, someone finally saw her. Not as a burden, but as a warrior. Eli began building a better support for her body. He found an old exo-frame, part of a mining suit, and rewired it. The metal legs were too big, the arms too heavy, but he adjusted them with care. He slid the frame under her body, fitting the straps, bolting the pieces together. Let's give you your legs back, he whispered. The next day they began practice. She couldn't stand, but the suit helped her sit up with support. Her eyes widened at the feeling. Gravity, balance, breath. She wasn't just lying in bed anymore. She was rising, little by little. Eli smiled every time she moved even a little. You're stronger than most people I know, he told her. And she blinked once. With pride, but outside, danger was growing. The drone from before had returned, this time with friends. 3 of them now circled the edge of the forest, scanning heat, life, sound. Back inside, Eli turned on an old radio unit. Static filled the air, but suddenly a voice broke through. This is Command Base 4 alert. A human worker is missing from Zone 3, suspected to be hiding a biological risk asset. Approach with caution. Eli's face turned pale. They're looking for you, he whispered. And now they're looking for me, too. He looked at her. Heart pounding. We have to leave soon, he said. They're not just coming to take you back, they'll erase everything. Vera blinked 3 times. Warning, he started packing supplies, food, battery cells, water tablets, tools. He gently lifted her into the suit again, locking the supports around her frame. We'll go underground, he said. Through the old tunnels, but as he stepped outside to check the path, he stopped. Footprints, fresh ones, leading toward the outpost. They were not his, and they were too small to belong to a soldier. Too careful, too familiar. A memory flashed in his mind. One of the photos in her bracelet. Vera and a younger girl laughing, holding hands. Her sister Vera, he said, stepping back inside. Someone from your past is already here. And outside the window, hidden behind the trees, a pair of eyes watched the door. Eyes filled with regret, but also with a mission. Vera sat near the window, her body held upright by the repaired exo-frame. She could not walk yet, but she could sit, breathe freely, and feel wind on her face again. Even that felt like freedom. But her eyes did not blink with peace, they blinked with fear. Eli was sharpening a tool near the door, ready to break down wood and build a sled in case they needed to escape fast. He kept glancing at her, then at the shadows beyond the trees. He could feel it in his skin. Someone was close. Vera blinked once, then again. He turned toward her and she blinked once more. Yes, she felt it too. I saw footprints, Eli whispered. Too small to be soldiers. But fresh. He walked to the door and looked outside. Whoever it is, they're not just watching, he added. They're waiting. The outpost was quiet except for the soft hum of the wind, then a knock light slow. Eli reached for his weapon, an old mining cutter he turned into a sharp blade. He opened the door just a crack. Standing there was a young alien girl about 18 in Earth years. She had soft purple skin and bright golden eyes. She didn't look like a threat, she looked heartbroken. I'm not here to hurt her, she said quietly. I'm her sister. Eli stepped outside. Closing the door behind him, he didn't trust her. Not after what Vera had been through. You were there, weren't you? He said sharply. At the river, the girl looked down, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't want it, she whispered. I begged them not to do it. Eli didn't reply. They said she was cursed, the girl continued. That the plague she fought changed her, infected her mind. They said she was a danger to our bloodline, that the council would punish the whole family if we didn't act. And you believed them, Eli snapped. So you let them kill your own sister, she flinched. But didn't argue. I was scared, she whispered. I was weak. Eli stared at her, his voice low and dangerous. She's alive because I wasn't weak, he said. She didn't die in that river. The girl's eyes widened. She's alive? Eli nodded slowly. She remembers you, he said. You were close once. The girl placed a hand on her chest, like her heart had cracked open. Please, she said, let me see her. Just once, Eli hesitated, then finally opened the door. Vera sat still, her eyes locked on the girl. For a moment, time stopped. The younger sister fell to her knees. I'm sorry, she cried. I'm so sorry. Vera. Vera blinked twice. No. The girl crawled closer, sobbing. I didn't know they were going to throw you away. I thought they would only take you to the exile camps. Vera blinked 3 times, warning. Eli stepped forward. She's not just angry, he said. She's trying to tell us something else. Vera blinked once. Paused, then once again she was calming down. Eli knelt beside her, holding the notebook. He started asking questions using their blink code. Is she in danger? 1 blink, yes, from who? He asked, showing the word family and council on the page. She blinked once at council. The sister gasped. They know she survived, she said. They found the drone footage. They sent soldiers. Eli stood up fast. How much time do we have? Not much, the girl said. They're coming to erase all of this. Her, you, even me if they find out I helped. Eli rushed to pack supplies. Then we leave now, he said. Through the mountain tunnels. He looked back at the sister. You're either with us or in our way. The girl nodded, wiping her tears. I'm with you. As they strapped Vera back into her support suit, the ground shook slightly. A low rumble echoed through the trees. What's that? The girl asked, fear returning to her face. Eli peeked out the window in the sky. Black shapes moved, transport ships, at least 3. They're scanning the forest, he said. Looking for heat, sound. Rife. Vera blinked 3 times again. Danger. Eli picked up the bag of medicine. Let's go, he said. Now, but before they could exit, Vera blinked again, fast, desperate. Eli stopped, turned, and read the message she spelled out with her eyes. They're not just coming to kill. They're coming to steal the cure. His heart dropped. They want your research, he whispered. Your brain, your knowledge? She blinked once. Yes, Eli turned to the sister. Do you know a place, somewhere they can't track us? The girl nodded. There's an old rebel hideout, she said. Below the ice caves, sealed and forgotten. Then lead the way, Eli said. He lifted Vera in his arms, her body heavy but familiar now. He looked into her eyes. They threw you away. Vera, he whispered. But we're not done yet. Behind them, smoke rose into the sky. Soldiers had landed, and this time, they came with orders to erase everything. The stars above were bright, but the danger on the ground was brighter. 3 black transport ships had landed near the forest. Searchlights swept across the trees, cutting through the night like knives. Strange alien soldiers moved quickly. Dressed in silent armor, they didn't speak, didn't pause. They were not here to arrest, they were here to erase inside the old outpost. Eli tightened the straps of the exoframe on Vera's body. She blinked slowly, her eyes showing both strength and worry. Her younger sister, Lyra, stood by the door, listening for every sound in the distance. The path to the mountain tunnels is dangerous, Lyra whispered. But once we reach the ice caves, they can't track us underground. Eli nodded and looked at Vera. You ready? He asked softly. She blinked once. Yes. He gently lifted her onto the back of a gravity sled, an old mining tool he had modified. It hovered just a few inches above the ground and made no sound. They placed blankets over her body, and Lyra covered her glowing skin with dust. No light, no sound, no trace. They moved into the forest, taking the darkest paths. Eli carried the medicine bag on his back, the last copy of Vera's plague research. Behind them, the outpost was already burning. The soldiers had reached it faster than expected, but they found nothing inside. The real story was already gone. Moving through the trees below the stars, as they walked, Lyra spoke in a whisper. "I was just a child when she joined the Healer Academy," she said. "I used to wear her medical coat and pretend to save lives." Eli looked at her. "You don't have to explain," he said. "No," she replied, "I do." She paused, then continued. "I believed everything they told me, that she brought shame, that she was dangerous, that her mind was infected." Her voice shook, but I never once looked into her eyes and asked her truth. Now every time she looked at Vera, she saw not weakness but courage. Vera, the woman who lost her voice but not her will. Vera, the one they tried to drown but who rose again. After 2 hours of walking, they reached the entrance to the old mining tunnels. It was hidden behind thick vines and a fake rock wall. Eli pushed it aside and they stepped into the dark, cold cave. Inside, the air was dry and bitter. Their footsteps echoed as they walked deeper. Eli powered on a small light, dim and red. Enough to see without being seen. Vera lay silent on the sled, her eyes scanning every corner of the cave. The walls were carved with old marks, symbols from the rebel days people had once hidden here. Fought here, died here now. Vera would survive here, maybe rebuild hope here. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed behind them. Eli spun around, holding up his blade. But it wasn't a soldier, it was the cave itself. Part of the ceiling had collapsed behind them. They were sealed in. "Is there another exit?" Eli asked, turning to Lyra. She hesitated. "There was, but it's blocked by ice deep in the second chamber." Eli sighed. "Then we make it through," he said, "one way or another." They moved deeper, the air growing colder with each step. Frost covered the walls, and the floor turned to glass-like stone. Eli's breath turned white. Lyra shivered and held Vera's hand. They reached the second chamber, huge and echoing like a cathedral. At the far end was the ice wall, thick, ancient, glowing faintly blue. Eli walked up and touched it. "It'll take hours to melt," he said, "but I'll do it." He pulled out a heat cutter from his bag and began slicing through. The tool hissed and sparked. Vera blinked slowly, watching. Lyra knelt beside her, whispering softly. "You once told me stars don't fall," she said. "They just burn quieter." I didn't understand it back then, but I do now. You're not fallen, Vera. You're just burning in silence. A single tear slid down Vera's cheek. She blinked once, slowly. Outside, the soldiers reached the forest's edge and scanned the area. "No life signs," one of them said. "The human is clever," another replied. "But we will find them." Back inside the cave, Eli kept cutting through the ice. A small opening started to appear, just enough to crawl through. Suddenly, Vera blinked rapidly. Eli turned quickly. "What is it?" he asked, rushing to her side. She blinked in a pattern, one he hadn't seen before. He checked the notebook, decoding each signal. Her message was short, urgent, terrifying. "They found the cure location. They don't need me alive anymore." Eli's heart raced. "They'll destroy the lab," he said. "And erase your work." Lyra stood up, eyes fierce. "Then we send it out before they do." Eli opened the medicine bag and pulled out the data chip. It held all of Vera's research, all her life's work. There was an old transmitter station on the other side of the ice. If they could reach it, they could send the cure to every allied system. Eli turned to Vera. "Are you ready to finish what they tried to end?" She blinked once, yes. The ice cracked louder now as Eli made the final cuts. And beyond that wall, hope or death was waiting. But whatever came next, they would face it together. Not as a broken healer, not as a silent sister, and not as a lost human, but as one voice, one team, running toward truth under the stars. The ice wall finally broke. A long crack shot through its center like lightning. And then, collapse, Eli pushed through first, holding a torch in one hand and the data chip tightly in the other. Behind him, Lyra guided the hover sled with Vera strapped inside. On the other side of the wall, a frozen tunnel stretched into silence. This place hadn't seen life in years. Old metal signs, broken wires, and rebel graffiti covered the walls. They were deep now, too far for drones but not too far for memories. As they moved forward, Eli slowed. Up ahead, he saw a faint orange light glowing in a room to the right. The map Lyra remembered showed the transmitter station beyond that room. They stepped inside carefully and froze. In the center of the room stood someone unexpected. A tall woman in royal armor, silver and gold. She turned slowly, her long cloak sweeping across the frozen floor. It was Vera's mother. Vera blinked in rapid shock. Eli placed a protective hand on her shoulder. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "Mother," she said softly, how did you find us?" The woman's voice was calm, too calm. "I never lost you," she said. "We've been watching since the moment the drone captured the human diving into the river." She looked directly at Eli. "You should have let her go," she said coldly. "You don't understand what she carries inside her." Eli stepped forward. "She carries the truth," he said, "the cure, the research, everything your people tried to hide." The mother's eyes narrowed. "She also carries the virus," she said. "It is asleep now, but she is the key. Her blood contains both the threat and the answer." Lyra shook her head. "She's not a weapon," she said. "She's our sister." Their mother's voice sharpened. "She's a risk that could wake up and destroy worlds." Vera blinked twice. No, she knew her own body, her own research. The virus inside her was stable. She had made sure of it. "She tried to save lives," Eli said. "She gave up everything to stop the plague." "She made herself dangerous," the woman said. "Because she knew too much." Then came the final blow. She stepped aside, and behind her stood Lyra's father, a man Lyra hadn't seen since childhood, the one who had thrown Vera into the river. "You lied to me," Lyra whispered. "You told me it was the only way." He nodded slowly, no regret in his eyes. "It was," he said. "Until your human friend pulled her out." Eli looked between them, rage rising in his chest. "So this was never about disease," he said. "It was about power." The mother gave a small, cold smile. "We are the bloodline of the sky," she said. "We cannot let a paralyzed daughter, infected and rebellious, ruin that." Vera blinked 3 times, warning. Before Eli could react, the wall behind them slammed shut. Steel doors locked them inside. "You can't stop the signal," he said, gripping the data chip. "I don't have to," the mother replied. "We already reprogrammed the transmitter." She turned toward Vera. "If you had simply stayed silent in the dark, none of this would have happened." Vera blinked once. Eli turned back to her, notebook in hand. She began to blink in a fast but clear pattern. He translated quickly. "Play the cure message from my bracelet." On loudspeaker, Eli reached for the bracelet, pressed the hidden button, and amplified it using a portable speaker. Vera's voice filled the icy room. "This is Vera, royal healer of Nareen. If you are hearing this, I am likely gone. But the virus is not. It has evolved, and it feeds on fear, silence, and pride. But there is a cure, and I've locked it in this message, coded, hidden, but real." The soldiers standing behind her family shifted, whispering. One of them checked their scanner. His eyes widened. He looked at his commander. "She's telling the truth," he said. "This data pattern, it's advanced medicine." The others hesitated. Truth was louder than orders now. The mother's smile faded. "Enough," she shouted. "Take the chip." End this, but the soldiers didn't move. They lowered their weapons slowly. Their eyes filled with doubt. Eli stepped forward. "You can't hide truth forever," he said. "It always finds air. Just like fire." Lyra pushed the hover sled forward, bringing Vera face to face with her parents. "You wanted to bury her," Lyra said, "but she rose again. Stronger." Vera blinked one last message, and Eli read it aloud. "You tried to kill me, but I healed myself, and I will heal others suddenly." One of the soldiers handed Eli a fresh power cell. "Upload the cure," he said quietly. "Let her voice be heard." Eli plugged the chip into the transmitter console. The system lit up with blue light, data flooding the screen. The signal was ready. The antenna warmed. "S." He looked back at Vera. "Shall we?" She blinked once. Yes, he hit the final button. A bright beam of light shot into the sky, the cure, her voice. Her truth, sent to every allied system in the galaxy. Vera's parents stood in silence. Powerless now, their betrayal had failed. Their lies exposed by the daughter they threw away. And as the light reached the stars, Vera closed her eyes. Not from pain, but peace. She was no longer a secret, no longer a burden. She was the spark that lit the truth. The signal had been sent. Across every planet in the Allied systems, Vera's voice now echoed through satellites and stations. Doctors, scientists, and leaders were already downloading the data. The cure was no longer hidden, no longer controlled. It belonged to the galaxy now. But inside the frozen rebel base, silence held its breath. Vera lay on the sled, her body still weak, but her eyes full of fire. She had done what they feared most. She had survived and spoken. Eli leaned over her, wiping a drop of sweat from her forehead. "You did it," he said softly. "They can't erase you anymore." Lyra sat nearby, watching the transmitter pulse with blue light. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But this time they weren't from guilt, they were from pride. The soldiers who had followed Vera's family into the base stood still, their weapons lowered, their orders broken. Some of them even removed their helmets, staring at her with wonder. "You saved my little brother 2 cycles ago," one of them whispered. "You cured him when no one else could." Another stepped forward. "My aunt was in the plague ward. You kept her alive long enough to say goodbye." Vera blinked once. Slowly she remembered. All of them, one by one. They came closer, not to harm, but to help. They lifted her gently, supported her frame, and began setting up a makeshift medical station inside the base. Doctors from the ship above arrived next, asking questions, offering to study the data further. Eli watched as the scene unfolded around him. A paralyzed woman who had been thrown into a river was now leading the beginning of a new era. But the work was not finished. The virus was still out there, hidden in blood and breath. In systems too poor to buy vaccines, the cure needed distribution, testing, translation into dozens of languages. Vera blinked once at Eli, then again, faster. He grabbed the notebook and read her message. "I need to help directly, not just watch. Build me the mobile lab unit," Eli smiled. He had seen the parts in the cave, the old machines, the power cores, the medic tools. If anyone could put it together, it was him. And now he had a team of soldiers and engineers who finally believed in her. Days passed and the rebel base transformed. No longer a hiding place, it became a healing center. Vera's new lab was built around her hover sled. Screens hovered beside her. Voice-to-code programs translated her blinks into commands. Her brain was the heart of the cure, and now it beat louder than ever before. Lyra worked beside her every day. She studied the formulas, cleaned instruments, and took blood samples from volunteers. She had once believed in silence, but now she believed in action. One evening, after treating their 200th patient, Eli walked to the edge of the ice cave. He looked up at the stars. So many systems, so many people still in danger, but he didn't feel hopeless. He felt something bigger, like they had started something that couldn't be stopped. Vera rolled up beside him, the hover sled silent beneath her. He looked at her and smiled. "You've become more than a healer," he said. "You've become a spark." She blinked once, then once again. Eli laughed. "That means I talk too much, doesn't it?" Another slow blink. Yes, they sat in silence, the stars reflecting in the ice above. Vera's body was still broken in many ways, but her spirit, her mind, her will, stronger than ever. Later that night, a message came in from Earth. The cure had reached the human governments, and for the first time in years, the plague in the refugee zones was finally slowing. Hospitals were cheering, scientists were crying, and across thousands of worlds, people whispered one name: Vera, the woman who rose from silence, the healer who defied power, the voice that lit the stars. Her family was never heard from again. Some said they vanished, others said they were exiled. But Vera never asked about them. She had chosen her new family, Eli, Lyra, and all those who fought for truth. As the rebel base expanded, Vera added a small engraving to the wall near her lab. It said only this: "Truth floats even when you try to drown it, so do I."